one of the saddest things in my life for the last few years has been that I am perpetually burnt out and too tired to comment on things in the way that some of you might know that I used to. And I hope I can get back to that yappy yap loquacious version of myself once I graduate. But I just want to share with everyone that I was so skeptical of Dr. Cheyenne Bryant's credentials as of like 2 years ago when she was on some panel, some all black relationship audience panel thing, and I saw a clip of it online, and she was like saying some really weird things that I was like, I just feel like nobody who's a licensed in the way that a licensed psychologist who's representing themselves with their degree, because you could be a licensed psychologist and be on a panel and not necessarily be there speaking as that, but I from what I could gather from the clip, she was there speaking as the psychologist, and I was like, I feel like somebody with a license probably wouldn't say that, but also she could just be on some like Jordan Peterson nonsense, So I had done my own little research, Google search, and I went through her webpage and I was like, she's using a bunch of vague language. It seems like she's not licensed. And I just chalked it up to that. I didn't even doubt that she had a doctorate, because I was like, in the year of our Lord, 2024 at the time, you couldn't be so stupid to lie about your credentials when the internet is free 99 and anybody can figure out anything that they want about your credentials. So for it to be that she literally is not licensed, is also not and never has been a licensed therapist. From what I could gather, maybe she was practicing therapy at some point during graduate school, but from what I can see, did not finish her program. I mean, that is really rich to me. And I fully support Dr. Raquel Martin and any other person who has been calling her out publicly, because she's a liar. And it's a really bad look for our field to be okay with liars using our title. Anyways, what I really want to say, what I really clicked on my little Instagram to record a video about is this. I hope nobody's taking the Breakfast Club and the Joe Budden podcast as a legitimate news source. For a variety of reasons. One is that none of those folks are journalists, from what I could gather. They all are not taking, interviews very seriously, and I don't think that's the point of those shows. So that should tell you, if she was actually trying to prove that what she's saying is true or has any credence to it, then she would probably go on a legitimate podcast where, people could ask her questions with journalistic integrity. For example, she goes on the Breakfast Club. They have this whole discussion about her dissertation. Why was the question, what was the title of your dissertation? And what was it about? I just feel like that's such a simple, obvious question. You're saying you graduated from a counseling psychology doctoral program. Okay, what year did you graduate, and where was your internship at? Why? And I truly think that would just clear everything up. And I think what's getting lost in all of this is that she has no integrity. So I hope no one is taking life coaching advice from her. It's not it's the multiple lies stacked on top of lies, and it's the constant gaslighting and assuming that we're all stupid, that I'm that's the issue. She's parading around like she is a doctor of psychology, and she's just not. She's pretending that she was ever a licensed therapist, and she was not. And she, there are a lot of different reasons why people don't finish their programs. I don't know if this is true or not. I heard on one of the social medias that she was dismissed from her program for plagiarism of her chapters 1 through 3 of her dissertation. I don't know if that's true or not. But if that happened, right? If that did happen, it's okay to say, I was young, I was desperate, I did something that was not in line with my values, I wasn't able to finish my program. Here's how I tried to reconcile that and make that right. And I'm very passionate about psychology, and now I use what I learned from my program that I didn't finish, and here's what I learned from other, places where I've learned things, and now I'm a life coach. And honestly, no one would care. Everyone would have respect for her. It would be completely fine because she's light-skinned and she's conventionally attractive. And that's the issue. It's like, if you cannot admit your wrongs when you're wrong, if you cannot take accountability, you have no authority in standing in calling yourself a life coach, which there are life coaches who do that a lot. Okay. And there are therapists who do that as well. Like, it's really, it's the dishonesty and the lack of integrity. And it's a wide scale issue. It's not a Dr. Cheyenne Bryant singular, problem. This is an issue of our humanity that, is coming from the top down, because look at who the president of the United States is. And honestly, you have to be a liar and a conniver and a thief and a manipulator and a gaslighter to have many positions of power. Not always, but that's often the case. So I'll say what I say. And honestly, as a Black community, we should be deeply offended that she would just bold-faced lie to us like this and think that we wouldn't figure it out. Okay, last thing, because I have to get to work. Of course, I looked up her birthday, and of course, I looked at the chart, because I'm like, girl, what are you doing? The lies, they're so obvious. And so, very briefly, I just want to tell you, because I just pulled up the ephemeris, I didn't even pull up her whole chart. She is a Virgo. 13 degrees, September 6, 1982. Which is just shocking, because Virgos, of all people, should know that integrity, doing things the right way, doing things the procedural way. Listen, I'm a Venus and Virgo chart ruler, so I can say this with my full chest. When I do things that are out of line with my values and with my value system and my integrity and what I know is right, it makes me physically ill, okay? But we're going to get to it. She's 13 degrees, Virgo sun, and that means that she has a quincunx between her sun and her moon. From what I can tell, we don't know what time she was born, but, with this ephemeris, at noon, the moon was at 12 degrees Aries. So, if she has a sun, quincunx, moon, that means sometimes her sun, her passionate willfulness to get what she wants when she wants, her way or the highway, it can be all consuming. Listen, okay, I have 2 siblings who have moon in Aries. Bernie Sanders is a moon in Aries, right? I think that they are some of the most motivated, hardworking people, because when they decide that they want something, they're just gonna do it until the flame burns out, right? But that's in direct conflict, incongruent, painful, chronic incongruency with her sun, with her ego, which is being dragged to hell right now because Saturn is at 10 degrees of Aries, and it's probably just, it's approaching the quincunx. So even if it's not an exact degree quincunx in her chart, by sign, Virgo and Aries don't get along. And then you've got she's got Mercury at 10 degrees of Libra, so that means Saturn is directly opposing her Mercury right now, and then Saturn in Aries opposite your Mercury is basically like, okay, karma's coming and knocking on your door, and is basically saying, okay, that thing that you do that is like you just listening to you and you not checking with anybody else, because that is sometimes what Saturn in Aries means. Is like, you just decided that you got to do this thing and you're not going to check in with other people. The other side of it is like Saturn in Aries is like, you think you have to check in with people before you start doing something on your own. So it's kind of like, 2 sides of that. That's the story. If you have Saturn in Aries, it's either you're consulting with people too much before you take initiative, or you're not consulting with people before you take initiative. And right now, that theme is opposing her Mercury, and she is now having to reconcile with that, face that, look at the mirror of that. Mercury in Libra is also extremely diplomatic and good at talking and saying a lot of words that sometimes don't mean anything, but they sound nice together. So stringing together words in a way that sounds nice and pleasing and satisfying to the ear, but they don't really mean anything, which is just sucks, right? Because at Mercury in Libra's best, it is speaking about justice and fairness and rightness. So then she's got the Venus in Leo, which, you know, is a very prideful Venus to have, and it's ruled by her sun in Virgo, which again is quincunx. Quincunx her moon and her Mercury. It's in conjunct her Mercury, because it's making a semi-sextile as opposed to the quincunx. Okay, then she's got Mars and Scorpio squaring her Venus and Leo. So it's like sometimes then, yeah, so like I was saying, Venus square Mars, I have Venus square Mars. Sometimes Venus square Mars can be really clumsy in social situations and make a lot of social missteps and social faux pas, right? Like foot and mouth syndrome. And you know, sometimes that can be funny. I feel like with me it's funny because mine is Venus and Virgo square Mars in Gemini, and it's ruled by Mercury and Leo. So it's usually quite funny, whatever my faux pas is. And if at worst people are laughing at me. Over the years I've learned to just laugh at myself. But with Venus and Leo square Mars and Scorpio, that actually probably feels really effing bad for her when she makes a social faux pas or when she's being called out by her peers. It feels like an attack on her literal existence, because Venus and Leo is ruled by her sun in Virgo, which is her life force. In addition to that, her Venus in Leo is ruling her Pluto in Libra. So it's like a power struggle, right? It is a power struggle, basically, if you call her out and she's like, oh, I'm gonna show you that I'm the best and I'm the prettiest and I'm the you know, all the Libra thing, most popular, and I'm the most desired, and anything you say doesn't matter because I'm just like prettier than you, basically, and I'm more powerful than you, Mars and Scorpio. And then we come down to her Jupiter and Scorpio, which honestly, she's probably very like naturally gifted at psychology. She's got Jupiter and Scorpio, and you know, a natural psychologist, but her integrity is severely lacking. So it's kind of like, it's like she can only use her psychology intuition to a certain degree, because when she tries to turn it on herself, it stops short. She starts to make excuses. That Mercury in Libra will literally just generate excuses where she's like, well, it looks like I got my degree. I basically did, so it's fine if I just basically say that I did. And I totally understand her reasoning in that, but at the end of the day, it's just not true. Coming to the end of this, she's got Saturn in Libra, so yeah, she's about to have a Saturn opposition. She is having one by sign by now, but she's got Saturn at 20 degrees, so that's not going to be fun, as these Neptune, as Neptune in Aries and Saturn in Aries, and honestly, Chiron has been on her, anyways, yeah, it's just not going to feel good as that gets further into the degrees of Aries, because she's going to have to take accountability. And I think this is a theme that's probably been playing out her whole life. You know, she's got moon in Aries most likely. She definitely has moon in Aries. We just don't know what degree, because the moon was in Aries the next day as well. So it's like, you know, she's constantly having this opposition between how she feels something should be and what's actually happening, right? That moon in Aries, it's like, well, I feel like I earned this thing and I'm super passionate about it, so that should be enough. And that feeling is opposing her Mercury, which is her logic thought. It's opposing her Saturn, which is like limitations of institutions and external like blocks, you know, like these real physical material things that make it so even if you feel a certain way, that doesn't mean it's going to happen the way you want it to. And it's opposing her Pluto in Libra, which is like the powers that be that are completely out of your control. And how you respond to those powers that be is what determines your character. Now we're getting to my favorite part, because she has North Node in Cancer at 11 degrees, which means her South Node is in Capricorn at 11 degrees. And this is basically making a perfect square to her Mercury in Libra. Almost, right? 1 degree. So that means that her Mercury in Libra is a skipped step, because I do practice... I'm an eclectic astrologer, so there is an evolutionary technique called skip steps, and it's basically when you have a planet that is making a square to your nodes, that planet is important because it's in this lifetime, you're here to kind of like get it together and resolve its issues. And so her Mercury in Libra wants her to be fair and balanced and truthful, because if she's not, it's gonna cause a problem, right? She's got Saturn and Aries also approaching that square to her nodes, and yeah, I just feel like it's now or never to like own up. She's making a choice like on a public stage to just kind of double down, but I kind of feel like she'll have more peace in her spirit if she just is like, honestly, guys, I've been doing this thing. I have not been walking the walk. I've not been talking the talk. I want to say sorry for my lies, and if that has hurt anyone, and please, I want to take accountability. And everyone will forgive her because she has a Libra stellium, and that Libra stellium really is speaking to the power of her pretty privilege. So she's trying to use the pretty privilege to be like, this is why you guys are bullying me. No, girl, your pretty privilege means you could barely apologize and everyone will literally accept your apology and you can keep it moving. But you gotta tell the truth. That's what it means. Like, that's the thing. And I can say this as a Libra rising. It's almost always more effective if you have Libra placements to fight diplomatically and like maintain honor through like both ending things. So it's kind of like, okay, like, I was wrong. I said I had my doctorate, but this is why I said it, and you were right for calling me out, and I'm sorry, but I just felt like I had to do that. And that's not like a real apology, but like, if you can kind of just like get there, like, people will forgive you. I mean, and that's honestly the lesson she's probably supposed to be learning with her Mercury in Libra. But I'm also noticing she's got Lilith in Capricorn squaring her Mercury. So yeah, she's probably just like, I don't want anything to undermine what I believe my work ethic is. But it's like, you're undermining yourself by lying. Like, your Mercury in Libra rules your sun. So when you lie, your life turns into a lie. Anyways, I almost forgot to mention that she has Uranus at 0 degrees Sagittarius, which is being opposed by Uranus at 0 degrees Gemini right now. Holy anaretic degree, or critical degree rather, sorry, anaretic degree is 29. Holy critical degree, you know, when something's at 0 degrees, that's a really big deal. So she's got Uranus opposite Uranus right now. Okay, and then she's got Chiron at 27 degrees Taurus, making a perfect square to her Venus at 27 degrees Leo, which means she has a T-square with her Venus in Leo and her Mars in Scorpio and Chiron. And, you know, Chiron in Taurus wants stability, desperately wants to hold on to stability. It hates when things are not stable. It feels like it can never have stability. You know, her school closing suddenly, that's such a Uranus Sagittarius experience. But what was probably even more shocking to her was that she was dismissed for plagiarism, if that actually happened, right? So yeah, it's sudden that your school closed. How convenient for you, because now you can kind of like not take accountability. But I mean, I don't know. Can any of the people in her class or cohort or internship speak up, please? I just feel like it's not that hard to verify. Anyways. Yeah, so that Venus square Chiron, it's like she might feel, right, because Venus is ruling her Mercury, that if she tells the truth, it will disrupt her stability and her ability to get cash money, steady flow of resources. But, you know, honestly, I think almost always it's so much better to tell the truth. I've always felt that way my whole life, because it's just like, why not? Why not? And if you're gonna lie, because sometimes there are very good reasons to lie, like, for example, if you're talking to the police or talking to somebody who doesn't deserve to know the truth, yeah, there's good reasons to lie, but this is not one of those instances, and I think she needs to figure out the difference between that, because she tried to use really real issues that affect our field, like access and westernized standards for healthcare, to explain away why she's not licensed. And those are really real issues that, yeah, sometimes we do need to skirt around the systems and powers that be to do it the way that we know is right. But you're trying to use that as an excuse for why you lied, when it actually is not the reason why you lied. It just conveniently worked out for you. So anyways, that's my read of Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. And as somebody who is about to graduate from my clinical psychology doctoral program in 1 month exactly, I take it very seriously that I am actually finishing this program, because there were not 1, not 2, not 3, maybe not even 4 or 5, maybe 10 very serious moments where I was like, I can't finish, I'm gonna quit, I'm not meeting the standards, I'm a failure, right? But I finished. And so, damn Skippy, when I call myself Dr. Chantel Christina Miller, I'm going to say that with pride, because that means something to me that I actually finished, right? And when I'm licensed in a year or 2, that's going to mean something to me. That's going to mean something to the care of my clients, because like that means that I take their mental health and this field seriously, with flaws and all. I take it seriously. One more thing I want to say is I survived writing a dissertation. So for her to sit there and be like, oh, like, I just can't find my dissertation because my school... Girl, if you actually finish your dissertation, you would have a file of that shit somewhere, because finishing a dissertation is no easy feat. I actually, like, thought this might be the thing that takes me out, like, because it was so challenging for me to finish my dissertation, with the rest of the world burning and my life falling apart on multiple instances. But I finished it, right? So honestly, I might get that shit printed out and turned into wallpaper, and I might have to put it on the walls in my future home, because that's how important it is to me that I finished that thing. So honestly, girl, if your school closed, I hope you have a copy of your dissertation somewhere. I hope your school is not the only place where you have that labor, because it's usually a like 80 to 100 page labor. You don't want that file to just be out there in the ether where somebody could just disappear. It could just disappear forever. So we all know she didn't do that, right? She just didn't. Anybody who's finished knows that.